Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be kind of decorating my reading journal. I'm also going to be talking about my January reads. I read 14 books in January. I printed out all of the books I read in January. I want to cut them out and put them cute in my reading journal. Let's just jump in. Okay, wow, that's a lot of books. That's crazy. Hot take on reading. I don't know if any other readers feel this way. I don't feel guilty at all about DNFing a book. Okay, the first book I read is What the Wind Knows by Amy Harmon. And this was actually a recommendation from my sister-in-law. This was our book club book this month. And this was so cute. I love this. It's a historical fiction with historical fiction romance, I want to say, and I gave this 4.5 stars. It's kind of like a time jump book to where it jumps from like present day to the past. So pretty much, without giving any spoilers, Anne Gallagher, her grandfather just passed, and his only like dying wish was that she brings him back to his homeland to like spread his ashes. So of course she did. She brings his ashes back to Ireland, and she finds a lake that he used to always talk about, I'm pretty sure, and she rents a boat, and she falls out of the boat and wakes up to, like, as she's falling, she sees someone, like, talking to her, and then something happens, and then she gets dragged out of the water, and she's in 1920, and her grandpa was a little boy. Oh my gosh, it was so cute. Like, the cutest concept. There's like a cute little romance and like the sweetest relationship with her and her grandpa when he was a little kid. It was just so sweet. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Switch by Beth O'Leary, and this was a 5-star book for me. So it follows Lena and Eileen, which Lena is a granddaughter and Eileen is her grandma. And Lena and Eileen switch houses. So they but with switching houses, they take over each other's lives completely. So like responsibilities. So Eileen was neighborhood watch type of thing, I would say. And so Lena has to take care of all of Eileen's responsibilities in there, and she like gets to know the neighbors and like helps out planning parties and stuff. And she meets someone, Lena meets someone living at Eileen's. Eileen is living at Lena's apartment with her 2 roommates, and she gets on dating apps. And anyway, she like is talking to all these guys, and then she matches with someone from back home, and they like start talking, and she started talking to him kind of as a joke. And then as like they kept talking, she's like, he's kind of fun to talk to. So it was just really cute, like watching them and like watching their like Lena and Eileen's relationship and like their relationship with friends. And I thought it was really cute to see how well they got along with each other's friends, even though there was like a 50-year age gap, you know? But it was so cute. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Bookshops Bonedust by Travis Baldree, and this is the prequel to Legends and Lattes that I read in December, and this one is really cute too. These are really heavy on the fantasy, I would say, because there's like a lot of stuff going on, but they're really light, easy reads, and I thought that was like really fun, and it was cute. And I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Star-Crossed Sisters of Tuscany by Lori Nelson Spielman. And I actually thrifted this book just because like it looked cutesy. And I loved this book. I was so surprised actually, because like I'd never heard of it, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll like it, but it looks really cute. This book is about this Italian family that had moved to New York. And in this Italian family, there's a curse, and the curse is that all of the second-born daughters will never find love. Amelia is the main girl, and her grandma, her Nona's sister, Poppy, has pretty much been shunned from the family for doing some horrendous thing that Nona never told anybody what actually happened. She just told them that they can never talk to her sister Poppy ever. So she's shunned. She can't talk to any of the family. And then Poppy reaches out to Amelia and told her that she would pay to take Amelia and then one of the other cousins, who's also the second born daughter. So they're all cursed, and she said she wants to take them to Italy on her like 84th birthday or something to break the curse, the family curse that has been going for years and years. She wants to break it, and she knows how to break it. So Amelia kind of was like, oh, I don't believe in the curse. And then she decides to go. It was just really cute watching Amelia and the cousin and Poppy, like they're bonding, and it was just so cute. I like this a lot. Anyways, I give this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and I only gave this 3.5 stars, which I think is a hot take because most people absolutely love this book. But I didn't feel like the storyline was super amazing. Like, pretty much what happens in the book is this main girl, Feyre, it kind of gives Hunger Games vibes at the beginning, where they're like super, super poor and she has to provide for her dad and sister. So she goes hunting. So she's out hunting and she sees this huge wolf who's hunting the deer that she was gonna shoot. So she ends up shooting both the deer and the wolf. And then the wolf, so he ends up being like high fae from like different city, and the cities are like blocked by like pretty much a force field, a magic force field, but he like slipped through. Then all of like his friends, the wolf she shot's friends, came from their fae world and like take her as a prisoner because they were like, you shot him. Once she goes to live with Tamlin, is who came to get her. It kind of is Beauty and the Beast storyline, to where she's like a prisoner and he's like this beast, but he actually like has a soft spot for her. It wasn't my favorite book. I've heard that the second book in the series is a lot better. End review of A Court of Thorns and Roses. Tamlin bugs me. Kind of annoys me because he doesn't do anything. Next book. The next book I read was The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie. And this book, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was heartbreaking. It was so sad. So this book is an autobiography of Sherry Frankie's life and her mom. If you haven't heard, her mom, Ruby Frankie, is in prison for child abuse of her younger siblings. And I had no idea that the abuse started when Sherry was little, which Sherry's the oldest child of their family of 8. And it was just really sad. Like, it was, for her being only 21 or 22, she's an amazing writer. Like, this book was written so well, and like, she's such a good storyteller. So yeah, I gave that 5 out of 5 stars. It just rips my heart out how some people were raised, you know? Another thing that baffled me was at 5 years old, Sherry's mom told her that Sherry couldn't be her friend until she was married and had her own kids, which I was like, that's messed up. Like, at 5 years old, why would anyone be thinking about getting married? Like, that should not be pushed into someone's brain at 5 years old, about like, you have to get married or else we'll never be friends. Like, that's horrible. Which is like, honestly, not even brushing the surface about how horrible Ruby Frankie is as a person. A heartbreaking read, but a beautifully written story about Sherry Frankie's life. The next book I read was The Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown. And I actually wanted to read this book. I watched the movie like 1 or 2 years ago whenever it came out, and my dad read the book and he thought the book was really, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know if this is a good thing. I think one of my favorite parts is that it was narrated by Edward Herman. He's Richard Gilmore in Gilmore Girls, and he narrates this. So this book pretty much follows the life of Joe Rant in 1936. So during like the Great Depression. So Joe Rance was pretty much, he was just a college student and looking for money and saw that he could get paid to be on a rowing team. And he had no idea what rowing was. So he just like went for tryouts because he's like, I need money. So they get on this rowing team and it talks about like how they get to the Olympics in 1936 in Berlin. They talked a lot about like what was happening in Germany at the time. I gave that book 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was a 5-star read, another one, and this is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. And she's one of my new auto-buy authors because she's freaking amazing. I don't know what was in this book. I read this almost 3 weeks ago, and I am still thinking about this book and the plot. So it follows Hannah and Jack Stapleton, and Hannah is a bodyguard, pretty much. Like she's a security detail. So not so much like a bodyguard, but she like is watching security cameras and making sure Jack Stapleton, who's this like huge actor, safe. And that means that she has to move out to his family ranch with him. And they're living in close proximity, which I love. And it was so cute. This book was so funny. Their witty banter is amazing. And it's like a clean book, a clean romance that was funny. And the romance was so strong. The tension was strong. It was just such a freaking good book. I love this book. That's The Bodyguard by Catherine Center, a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Happiness for Beginners by Catherine Center. Obviously, I love her. So I actually watched this movie on Netflix, and the book is 500 billion kajillion times better than the movie on Netflix. Yeah, so this book follows Helen, and she signs up for this wilderness trip, which is like supposed to be like extremely difficult, and like some people die on the trip because like bear attacks and like they fall off a cliff, like crazy intense. And she signs up for this because her brother Duncan suggested it, and then her brother Duncan's best friend Jake also signs up for this trip, which she doesn't. He says that it was just a coincidence, but he actually signs up because he wants to be on the trip with her, which is so cute. And anyways, Helen is super stubborn. She's 32, recently divorced, and she's like trying to like rewrite her life because she's like, I've been boring my whole life. I want to like be remembered for something. And her ex-husband sucks. And she has a lot of trauma from like her mom abandoning them and things like that. And then Jake, he finds out something medically wrong, and he kind of is wanting to like live his life out to the fullest before this like disease takes like stuff from him. Anyways, don't want to spoil it, but this book was so good for proximity because certain nights they have to like sleep in the tent together, and their banter is so funny. They get like so annoyed with each other. Well, Helen gets annoyed with Jake, and Jake is just like obsessed with her. This book got me frustrated a little bit because it wasn't happening the way I wanted it to happen, and then it ended up perfect. So I love this book. I give this 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, however you say that. And I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. This is a thriller. And okay, I was actually shocked. So pretty much the main guy, Theo, he is like a therapist, and he wants to go and work at the prison where Alicia is in prison. And Alicia is prison for murdering her husband, and she's never talked since she got sentenced. So she's never spoken a word. And Theo thinks that he can like get through to her. So he starts working at the prison, and like things start to slowly unravel like with her case, and he like slowly like gets her out of her shell and stuff. And the plot twist was insane. It was so good. This book like kind of hit me in the heart more than I thought a thriller ever could, but the parts that always got me were what Theo's therapist was telling him. Who's his therapist? I need her number. Anyways, so he wants to go and figure out what happened with Alicia's case and like to try and get her to talk. Anyways, that's about all I can share about this book, but I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was You Again by Kate Goldbeck, and I actually got this from a recommendation by Haley Pham. If you're a reader, I'm sure you know who she is. But I did think this book was funny. Like, it had some funny parts in it. I mostly just didn't love how sex-based this book was, like, based around, like, talking about sex a lot, which, not my cup of tea. That's all I'll say. Next book I read was The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This was also a book I picked up because of Haley Pham. And this one did not disappoint. I love this book. I gave this 4.25 stars. I think the only reason this wasn't a 5 for me was because there was like some spice and like that I had to skip. But this is a book about Clementine and Ewan, and Clementine's grandma owns this apartment, or she's living in this apartment. And when her grandma passes, she moves into the apartment, and her grandma always told her about the apartment like taking you back 7 years, like just randomly, and her grandma had fallen in love that way. And her grandma always said, like, 2 rules is take your shoes off when you come inside and don't fall in love in this apartment, because like it's just like so conflicting, I guess. So anyways, Clementine moves into this apartment, and it takes her back 7 years to when Ewan was staying there. And Ewan was subleasing the apartment from Clementine's grandma while Clementine and her grandma were on a trip. So they were going to be gone all summer, so she subleased it to Ewan. So anyways, Ewan was there, and Clementine just walks in one day, and he was there, and they were like, she was like, "What are you doing in my apartment?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm subleasing it from your grandma." Anyways, super cute, forced proximity, which is amazing. I love it. And it was so cute. It was pretty clean. Their romance was so cute and wholesome. Like, it was so sweet, and like the plot twists were sweet, and it was funny, and just like a kind of like a fuzzy, tingly book. Like, it was so cute. I loved that Ewan calls her Lemon, not Clementine. And there's a part where Ewan's friends were talking to Clementine about like this ex of Ewan's, and they were saying that he kept singing the song on repeat, and the song was "Oh My Darling Clementine." And that like almost pricked my eyes with tears because it was so freaking cute. I'm like, they don't even realize that that's her. Her name's Clementine, and he just calls her Lemon. Oh, it's just so cute. I love this book. I'm definitely going to be reading more of her work because this book was so cute. 4.25 stars. The next book I read was The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center. Wow, 3 Catherine Center books in a month. That's got to say something in itself. This is a book about Emma Wheeler and Charlie Yates, and Emma is she lives with her dad because her dad got in an accident. He needs someone to take care of him full time. So she's been living with him, taking care of him, and she's a screenwriter, or like she like helps. Well, she actually isn't. I don't think. She just does that for fun, and she's really good at it. And then Charlie Yates is an amazing screenwriter, and Emma is obsessed with his work. And it's actually kind of funny. Emma's ex-boyfriend, who turned out to be gay, calls her up one day and was like, "Hey, I need you to come to LA to work with Charlie Yates on a screenwrite because he wrote a movie and it's horrendous. His script is horrible and it's gonna tank his whole career. Like, we need you ASAP." So she gets on a plane, flies out there, and then she gets there, and Charlie Yates, the screenwriter, is like, "I don't want her here. I don't need help." So her agent, pretty much, is her ex-boyfriend, is this other guy's agent, and he's only Emma's agent because he feels bad for how they broke up back in the day, back in high school. Anyways, so she has to stay with Charlie overnight, and then she's gonna catch a plane in the morning to leave because he didn't want her there. And then he was asking for her opinion on his right, and she was like, "I have a million things to say, but I'm not gonna share it if you're not gonna pay me." Anyway, so then she ends up getting hired. They work on the movie, and yeah, they are living in the same house. Obviously, they're gonna like fall in love. And again, Catherine Center's writing is just so like wholesome and funny. Like, and like she talks about, like, she gives the characters so much depth. They all have kind of hard pasts and like things, like traumas that they're working through, but like she writes it in such a good way where like you care so deeply for these characters, but it's not a heavy book and it can still have like funny moments in it. And then they just obviously have like a cutie slow burn romance, and it was just amazing. That was the Rom-Commers by Catherine Center, and I gave it 4.25 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, I actually finished this yesterday, and this is a different book club book, and it's The Butcher and the Wren, and by Aliana Urquhart. I don't know how to say her last name, but she's apparently a podcaster, a true crime podcaster that wrote a book. And this was insane. I got queasy a few times because it's like a thriller, kind of suspenseful murder mystery book. And so Wren is the main girl. She works in the morgue, and which I can't remember what that's called, but she works down in the morgue, and Jeremy is the murderer, and it kind of does a dual POV from Jeremy's perspective and Wren's perspective, and the plot twists were terrifying, absolutely terrifying. They call Jeremy the Butcher because he pretty much treats his victims like they're animals, like they were a deer, and he like hunts them. Anyways, yeah, his chapters, that's how I felt about his chapters. They were so gross. Yeah, the plot twists were crazy. I feel like I can't talk about thrillers without giving anything away. I don't think I've ever read a dual POV where one of the POVs is the murderer, which kind of made me sick. So, and like he wasn't actually like obviously being a murderer. His like POV was interesting. But yeah, I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. It was really good. Ended on a huge cliffhanger. How could you end a book like that? But yeah, that was The Butcher and the Wren by Aliana Urquhart. However you say her last name. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. But yeah, kind of a spooky book. Definitely couldn't read that in the dark. That was all of the books I read in January. I hope you loved hearing about what I read, and if you have any book recommendations, let me know. Like, comment, subscribe if you like my videos. If you read any of these and like them, let me know, or if you don't, because not everyone has the same taste. And yeah, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.